Carpentry by NJT is based in the western suburbs and has many years of experience to assist you in sourcing any and all of your carpentry needs. Carpentry by NJT are great supporters of local soccer clubs in Melbourne's western suburbs, including ambitious State League One outfit Sydenham Park Soccer Club. Home Builders Corp, meanwhile, is a Melbourne-based construction company by the same owners with more than 15 years' experience. Home Builders Corp specialises in new homes and unit developments. With attention to detail, they work to the highest standard to satisfy their customers with a very quick turnaround. For further details about how either Carpentry by NJT or Home Builders Corp can help you, contact owner-manager Nick on 0410 576 018 or via email at nick@homebuilderscorp.com.au. Carpentry by NJT and Home Builders Corp are the proud major sponsors of the Football Out West show. Good evening and a very warm welcome to you. Thank you for joining us here on the Football Out West show. My name's Tonchi Prusak. It's going to be a massive show. It's going to be an epic show as we start to make the countdown towards the end of the season. It's, as we said, huge show. We're going to get us straight into it. A big welcome to my co-host, Steve Curtin. Good evening, Steve. Where do we start with tonight's show? But first of all, good evening. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Tonchi. Where do we start? That is a great question because we talk about at different times the chaos competition in NPL2. It's like our whole game is a chaos all around the nation at the moment. Front page news everywhere and pandemonium last night, heart-stopping moments. But the crazy penalty shootouts have continued today as well if you've been watching any Australia Cup action. It hasn't stopped. Of course, it was the penultimate round of the NPL Victoria competition as well to boot, and the Nike FC Cup was on, just to name a few things. So, yeah, just a quiet weekend on the football front. Tonchi, how are you?
Yeah, no, look, flat out, just catching my breath, folks, catching my breath because so much is going on, and we just are at breakneck speed today. We've got two great guests on tonight. Altona City, they've secured promotion into next season's NPL3 competition. We'll be speaking to their coach, Michael CALANDRELLA, and we've also got some exclusive footage of their game yesterday against Corio at Hume Reserve. We'll also be speaking to the coach of the Melbourne Knights, Ben CAHN. Huge week for the Melbourne Knights. They won on Thursday night in the Australia Cup game against Lions FC from Brisbane. And earlier today, just moments ago, in fact, they defeated Dandenong Thunder in a remarkable game, 2-1 there. To just really hit the top form at the right time. And folks, he's been so kind. He's out for dinner celebrating the last two victories.
Very
kind. Been so kind to join us as his food is probably about to be served and it's getting cold. We're going to bring on Ben CAHN, and it's an absolute pleasure. And thank you so much for joining us, even though you're out dining tonight, Ben. How are you?
Yeah, very good, thanks. Very good. It's been a big week, so just winding down.
Oh, mate, look, thank you once again for joining us. You are out for dinner tonight celebrating the last few weeks. But let's talk about earlier today. There was a bit of technical glitches for those trying to tune into NPL TV, but the end result was a 2-1 win for you guys, which is a great result considering, days earlier you had a big game against Lions FC in the Australia Cup. We'll get to that a bit later on. But how did you see today's game?
Look, we knew it wasn't going to be easy coming into the game. Lots of tired bodies, and it's not just the physical load; it's the mental and psychological toll that it takes on everybody to get through a big cup game. Obviously, huge positive feeling to have won that game. So it was just important to ride off the momentum and see what we could get out of today. the boys are fantastic. Dandenong Thunder are a top side. I find them one of the most difficult sides to play against in the competition. We struggled at their place earlier in the year. So yeah, we knew it was going to be a difficult one, but in the end, the boys stood up and we just about got over the line.
Yeah, so a 2-1 win that I don't think we could even watch it on NPL TV, which was pretty devastating for us because we enjoy watching your Knights boys go about it this season. Ben, they've been excellent, and it was your defenders getting on the score sheet today as well, from what I hear.
Yeah, the first goal was a free kick. Guevara Ep22 put in one of his excellent deliveries, and Josh Phelps put the header in the top corner. And then Ivan Frenic popped up with an assist from his brother Joey to get the winner late on.
Yeah, if we have a quick look at the ladder, with one round to go, you've secured a top 4 spot, which is great news for Knights fans. It's been one of the best seasons in recent years. The Knights have been struggling in recent years, but this year you've secured not only a top 6 final spot, but also a top 4 spot. How does the final system work now? Do you end up playing the 5th or the 6th team, or how does that work now? Assuming
my understanding is we'll now play a home game against whoever comes 5th.
And at this moment, it is Port Melbourne, but there's still one more round to go. So we'll look at that a little bit later on. But let's turn our attention now, Ben, to Thursday night. And we've got some highlights there of the game. Gian Albano scoring that first goal. It's back on the national stage. Look, this is a team that you know very, very well, having coached up in Queensland for several years. The result, was it what you were expecting, or did you expect the Lions to put up a bit more of a fight?
Yeah, look, my history and experience with Lions has been a long one, and they've always been such a tough opponent, and they're always a team and a club that gets up for big games, and they probably not performed in the league this year the way that they would have expected to. But there was no way that I was expecting them to come to us and for us to have an easy game. And look, although the scoreline was nice for us, it certainly wasn't easy. They defended very well for long periods, and then they had their moments of pressure where they were on top of us, and we did well to see it out. There was certainly some moments where I was worried, but look, as soon as we got that third goal, it was comfortable from there.
And it had to have been an advantage, knowing a little bit about what to expect from Lions FC. Were you able to use some of your previous experience against them?
Absolutely. Look, it's a team and a playing group that I know very well. I've coached a lot of games against them, and I certainly went into the game with a lot of knowledge about the team. Darren Simon's very clever, so there's still an element of unknown of what teams are going to pick, how are they going to set up against us. So we still had to adapt and adjust during the game. They made some tactical changes during the game as well that gave them a bit of momentum temporarily, so we had to adjust there. But in the end, I think the prior knowledge certainly helped.
Now, Ben, some of the players they're hitting their form right at the right time, and one of those seems to be Gian Albano, who's promised so much, and he scored the first goal, scored the last goal in that Australia Cup final. Is he one of what? Let's have a look at it. Going into the final series, are there any particular players that you're really looking to step up now in these last few weeks of the season?
All of them.
Yeah, diplomatic answer.
Look, it's that time of year now where every game is big. Everything has a lot riding on it. It's not a case of expecting certain individuals to step up and carry the load. It's a case of we now as a group need to train well, need to prepare well, need to keep improving, keep developing. Do our homework on the teams that we're going to come up against and make sure we're prepared. And then on the day, we'll can do all the preparation we like, but on the day it's about a group of players and all standing up for each other. And within that, you hope that the individuals like Gian can step up and be the difference, because when he's on, he's unplayable.
And Ben, how hard has it been to deal with the adjustment of not having Corey Sewell out there, your left back? He's been such a key player this season. He might have even been leading the club's best and fairest when he went down injured, but also losing Chris Oldfield, who's, I think, taken off overseas, and Jacob Wiseman stepping into goal. How hard is it to replace those two experienced figures?
I mean, look, in terms of doing what both of them do for the team, irreplaceable. Corey was such a huge cog in what we do tactically, and a lot of our success in in the first half of the season was due to not just Corey himself, but the impact that Corey's positioning and movement and football intelligence sort of freed up the rest of the team and gave us a real flexibility. Huge loss for us. But Jack Morton's done really well there. He did really well at right back when Ivan was out, and when Joey was out and Ivan had to play as a central defender. So he's done well on the left in the last few weeks, especially in the big games. And Oldie's such a big personality, such a good leader. There's so much experience that he brings to the game, and unfortunately for us, he had some family issues to take care of back in the UK. He's back now. He comes back during the week. But Wisey's just stood up and been outstanding. He's come from Canberra. It's always hard as a number two because you sit on the bench all season and play second fiddle. And when he was, he's played 3 games and we've won all 3. And he had a couple of nervy moments early away at Hume, but aside from that, the save in the first minute against Lions was outstanding. And if they save that and go 1-0 up, it's a different game. If they score that and go 1-0 up, it's a different game. So, incredibly grateful to Wisey for his attitude and commitment and confidence to come in and do the job for us.
Yeah, I went along to that game on Thursday night, and just after Mark Ivkovic, one of our NPL commentator colleagues, mentioned on one of our sister podcast shows last week that the Knights had been in negotiations with World Cup star Daniel Subasic from Croatia, because they obviously knew that Oldfield wasn't going to be there. But Jacob Wiseman, as you said, he put in a World Cup quality performance with some of those saves. That was absolutely incredible. He's obviously been given his opportunity, but there's a couple of others as well. I know Anthony Julzel played the whole game on Thursday as well. Some of these guys that have been sort of fringe players are now getting that opportunity. Is there real competition for places now on the training track with the finals, with the Australia Cup coming up?
For sure. Look, Jersey was an integral part of the early season run and the form that we had. He got an injury and a niggle, and it took him a bit of time to come back in. And when you get injured, the other people can step in and do well. So it was, he struggled to build any momentum and rhythm in that recovery process once he was back. But he's played the last 3 games, and when Juzzy's on, we're a much better team for having him in. He's such a composed footballer in possession, and he really suits the way we want to play in terms of controlling the game. And look, the competition's strong. We're at a point now where everybody bar Corey Sewell is fit, fresh, and available, and I've got some very difficult decisions to make as we go forward into the finals and the cup. And as a coach, I'm very grateful to have so many good players and so much depth at my disposal coming into this run home. Part of my job is, unfortunately, having to make decisions that upset people, but the group is very strong. The attitude of those boys is very strong, and they're all there to push each other, and I'm sure they're all ready to take their chance when it comes.
And a big game this Saturday coming up to finish off the season against Heidelberg United, the home and away season at least. Not likely to be going up or down the table. Is there a chance to maybe give some younger players some minutes, or will it be steady as she goes, steaming on into the finals?
We'll see tomorrow how everybody's recovered and pulled up from today. We'll obviously do a review on yellow cards and anybody that's in danger. And we'll make some decisions around how we manage that game. I don't go into any game not wanting to win it. It's important to us. I think we've won 4 or 5 of our last 6 or something like that in the league, plus the cup game. We're in a good run. I think it's important to try and build momentum and carry that into finals. at the same time, it would be nice to find a balance and give some opportunity to players that maybe haven't had that opportunity this season.
And finally, Ben, into the round of 16 of the Australia Cup. At the moment, there are three other Victorian clubs: Melbourne City, Heidelberg United, Western United, who will be joining in that. And we've also got Northcote City taking on Adelaide United tomorrow. The draw tomorrow after that game, the Northcote City Adelaide United game. Round of 16, are you hoping for an A-League opponent, or would you like to pull another NPL club and hopefully push through to the round of 8, the quarters?
Look, in all honesty, the NPL clubs that are in are all strong. They're not at this point in the competition for no reason. I don't think there's any preference really. We want to do well in the cup, and we want to go as far as we can. Whether that's against an A-League team or an NPL team, we'll do everything we can to prepare and be ready.
Excellent. All right, mate. Well, on that note, we'll let you get back to dinner tonight. What's for dinner tonight? What have you ordered? I haven't had dinner yet, so I'll probably go very hungry.
You don't want to know. I've ordered off the kids' menu. I don't eat big meals after a game.
All right, you go enjoy the kiddie meals. But either way, thank you very much for joining us tonight, and all the very best for the weeks ahead. Yeah. It's going to be a huge couple of weeks for the Melbourne Knights, that's for sure.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Ben. All the best.
See you.
Ben CAHN, the coach of the Melbourne Knights. He was very kind of him to join us, Steve, tonight. We're going to...
very kind indeed, yes.
Yeah. We'll take a very quick break. When we return, it's basically the news desk time, and we'll be covering a lot in our news desk. And then a little bit later on, around about 8:45, in about half an hour's time, we'll be also catching up with the Altona City coach who's been on our show earlier this year, Michael CALANDRELLA. His side, Altona City, have got promoted and are the champions of State League One. They will be playing NPL3 football next year. So there's a lot of news to get through. Folks, stay with us. The news desk coming up.
As we see that full-time whistle go for Calder United. It's going to be a record 6th Nike FC Cup. This team are perpetual cup winners. They can't seem to lose. It's been an absolutely brilliant display from FC Bulleen Lions, but unable to capitalise on their opportunities going forward. It is Calder United who once again take home the Nike FC Cup.
Well, there you have it, folks. Just moments earlier, it was Calder United, Steve, for a record 6th time taking out the Nike FC Cup.
Yeah, 6 in a row they've made it. They've won it every year since 2017, with the exception of 2020 when it wasn't contested. It was a 2-0 win over the Bulleen Lions today at the new home of the Matildas there at Bundoora up in Plenty Road. And didn't that venue look excellent as well? What a great quality playing surface for the players to play some good quality football. And Bulleen Lions held strong for a while, and it took until the 78th minute, Lucy Richards breaking through, getting on the end of a team move on the left-hand side before it was the result was sealed by Raquel Doralis, finishing a move that had gone down the right-hand side. Just 2 good team moves, and by the premier team in this cup competition for some years, and such a good opportunity for these players with the Calder United team, because they can see that pathway to the A-League Women's with their link with Western United. There's reward there for them, even if they do seem to win just about everything these days. But also, Tonchi, we saw a new innovation, the Nike FC Community Cup final.
I love this.
Isn't it good? And it was also streamed on the Facebook channels, and I believe on NPL TV as well, quite possibly. Really good coverage, and it went to a shootout, and they even had the camera out on the pitch there, with a similar view to what we saw of the Matilda shootout last night, right behind the taker. And it was Casey Comets and Essendon Royals, the 2 teams contesting. They were the highest community ranked clubs at that progressed the furthest in the competition, and they got to play off in this showpiece match, and ended up being Essendon Royals 4-3 on penalty. So congrats to the Essendon Royals girls there, and commiserations to Casey Comets.
Let's take a little bit of a glimpse into the last seconds of that game. And as Steve said, boy, was the new home of the Matildas looking absolutely resplendent.
The substitute was going to take this penalty. So if she slots it in, the Comets have to score the next one, or they are out. But Rostevsky needs to score this first. Rostevsky, and she finds the back of the net. Bennett didn't move off her line. She had no idea where it was going. So, for the Royals, it's one more kick at the moment. For the Comets, it's also one more kick, because if CAHN misses this penalty, the Essendon Royals are champions. And they do claim the Nike FC Community Cup final and the Steph Catley plate. So, a lot of pressure on CAHN. She has to put this in the back of the net to keep the Comets' hope alive. And she skies it! And the Essendon Royals are champions of the Nike FC Community Cup final. An excellent final. They worked so hard to get here.
Wow, what a way to decide a game, hey?
Yeah, the cruelest way to go out. And as we said, commiserations to Casey Comets on a good performance, but it was Essendon Royals. Well done to them. And speaking of penalty shootouts, Tonchi, we might just touch on something that took place last night that captured the imagination of the entire nation. And gee, I tell you what, looking at people's Instagram reels who were not football fans,
wow,
they are populated with shots of Courtney Vine scoring that winning penalty, as was the front and back page of all the media outlets today. The news, every news bulletin today was all about it, and you've got some good snippets there as well. It's wall-to-wall coverage, because the ratings of this are huge from last night. There was more people watching this than any TV event since Kathy Freeman won gold in Sydney 2000 in the 400 meters. And it's built up perfectly, as well. As, you know, Sam Kerr said before the tournament that she wants this to be her, Kathy Freeman moment. Well, if we get to the final, we might actually eclipse Kathy's famous 400 meters and that amazing call of it by Bruce McAvaney back then. But look at those numbers, absolutely incredible.
Gosh.
And it was great watching the game last night. I was in I was calling it Avenger Park beforehand, and we went a bit overtime. Unfortunately, there was, I think, a total of 11 minutes of added time in that fixture across the two halves, and it caused us to get to the pub a little bit late, and I was absolutely drenched, as was my co-commentator Mark Ipkovich yesterday. But turned up to the pub absolutely wet and soaking, but didn't mind at all, because the excitement was through the roof. And then out on Sydney Road after the game, cars going past and beeping horns and cheering, and the whole nation is well and truly behind this team. It's probably an understatement.
There you go. When you says #1 rating TV sport program of the past decade, I don't know, is it just talking about Channel 7 or just generally? But that is amazing figures. And look, the whole country is jumping on the bandwagon. And look, it's great to see. Look, political opinions aside and all of that kind of stuff, and we know that once this is all finished, I'm sure everyone's going to go back to their AFL, or if you're watching from the northern states, back to the NRL. But our colleague Craig Filer, who's unfortunately out of action, and speaking of posts and jumping on board and all of that kind of stuff. Actually, that wasn't him. That here he is. This is his comment. This is his post. I love this. And absolutely fantastic from the Matildas against the #5 best ranked team in France. The Australian public have well and truly embraced not only the FIFA World Cup, but football, soccer for the uneducated. Love it, Craig, in general, and with record crowds and participation across the country at an all-time high. But this is the beauty. Surely it's now time for the federal and state governments of this country to wake up and start to invest in the infrastructure that will ensure the future of the world game once the World Cup finishes for the next generation. Now, after he said it, this is the comment of the century. Melissa Barbieri, a footballing legend here in Victoria, and she was actually involved in the co-presenting of the Nike FC Cup earlier today. She's made this comment in a newspaper article during the week. Albanese keeps talking about this freaking public holiday. How about you just effing fund our sport properly? Oh, I love it. I love it.
He doesn't mince her words, Melissa.
No.
And you wouldn't want to be on the end of a tirade from her either, because I've seen that when she's been out in the park, and it's not something for the faint of heart. So, Albo, if you're watching tonight, I'm sure. Look, he's a big fan of football out west, and he can get the message that it's time. It's time.
And it is. Look, there's statistics galore of how little funding in proportion to all the other sports football gets. And, well done to the Matildas, but well done to all of the people behind the scenes that have pushed football, pushed women's football, it's just a whole movement. Now, if we can achieve this with very, very limited resources, imagine what can be done if we start to get a little bit of fair dinkum funding our way. But look, in the meantime. Oh, sorry, Steve.
Well, I can only imagine the amount of interest in taking up the sport for juniors, junior girls and boys that comes from this, and the amount of facilities that we have. We can only use whatever we can get. We can only use more.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's hope this is the start of something big. And I know someone was saying, "Oh, it's a turning point." Well, hopefully, it is a turning point in Australian football, because the world.
Well, let's make it a turning point. Let's make it that now.
Now, what I would suggest to everyone listening here, viewing, watching, get in contact with your local MP. Get in contact. Now is the time to really send them a letter, send them an email, nicely, of course, but really put the point through that we as a footballing community really want these people who represent us, or so they say, who represent us, to really put their money where their mouth is and to support this program. I know at a local level in Geelong, there was a horror story just last week where a local girls team was training at these substandard facilities. An ambulance was required to come out midweek. The ambulance couldn't even get to this field, so they actually had to bring a wheelchair. But before they moved this girl into the ambulance, about 50 meters or 100 meters to the ambulance, they actually had to get out the iPhone, and use that light to make a diagnosis. I know we joke about it, we laugh about it, but that, folks, is 2023 Australia, where we talk about how great the Matildas are and how fantastic they are, and they are indeed. But at grassroots level, some of our girls and boys and men and women and veterans and what you're not, juniors, are training in absolutely abysmal conditions. All right. So, folks, get out there and hit your politician hard. That's enough of the community service announcement. Steve, what else have we got?
That is a hard act to follow there. But look, I'm just going to duck off and write a letter after the show to my local MP about, let's get some male and female, separate specific change rooms and some football specific facilities set up so that we can actually play, not on, football ovals with cricket pitches in the middle of them, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. But no, look, just such a positive night last night. And
it was.
And hearing people that do not follow the game, people's, mothers and grandmothers and friends who are not invested, don't know anything, never watched a game before, texting and saying, that was incredible. Who do we play next? It's something that, even we thought we had high expectations of the World Cup, despite the nation not really being excited before it started. And we couldn't have dreamt of how engrossed the nation has become. And just like, we said this would happen, and it has now. So, look, other things, what else? Where do we go from there, Tonchi? We're going to talk about other news items like the Australia Cup.
Let's talk about that. Earlier today, there was a very, very big game that was being played. Let's talk about that one.
All right, so there was a couple of games in progress today, but one in Melbourne at Jack Edwards saw Oakleigh Cannons 2, Melbourne City 2. This was a bit of a thriller played in front of a packed crowd down there as well. A lot of souvlaki sold, but I'm told they were sold in the bread rolls rather than the pitta, which has upset a lot of people this season. So just keep that in mind as well next time you're down there at Jack Edwards Reserve, to maybe push for the pitta bread to come back. But Connor Hampson opened the scoring within the first minute for the Oakleigh Cannons. The bench getting on the score sheet. A really good start for the side. There was also a goal for Alex Salmon, but 2 penalty kicks awarded to Melbourne City, converted by Tolgay Arslan, and a 94th minute winner. There was no time for a reply after Alessandro Lapane scored there. And those stats there, they are interesting reading. They read that that was a thrilling game. And some of the Melbourne City fans, I'm told they were locked in the venue afterwards, but they have been let home now, which is good. Which is, I was going to say, fair enough, but good news that they've made it home. As I was saying, another thrilling game as well. We talked about the 20-shot shootout last night. The match between Sydney FC and Central Coast Mariners was a 22-shot shootout. Wow. It came down to the goalkeepers, and there was the young 19-year-old in the sticks for Central Coast Mariners, Washorski, and just turned 19 against Andrew Redmayne, and it came down to mano-a-mano, and eventually Redmayne saved Washorski's shot and then scored his own to win after Kusharski, one of the other youngsters for Sydney FC, had scored in the 103rd minute. So the regular time and finish, the extra time had evaporated, and the match kept going until this wonder goal was scored. After there was also a goal in this game for Alu Kuol, which is great to see him back in the country scoring goals after earlier in the game. And then Steele for the Mariners thought he'd scored what may have been the winner on 100 minutes, but the Mariners couldn't hold on, and Sydney had the psychological advantage going into the shootout. Interestingly as well, and I'm banging on about this one game, but Andrew Redmayne no longer allowed to do the full wiggle, but he did try and do the partial wiggle. He was off getting his drinks. He was drying his hands with the gloves. He was doing laps of the goals. He did a little somersault on the goal line at one point. Just everything he can do to put off the take of it. He got them over the line in the end. But an exciting week of Australia Cup, and isn't it funny? They've been cramming them in between the World Cup matches as well. Wins also for Inter Lions. We talked about the Knights getting their win over Queensland Lions. Heidelberg United, the other Victorian side, went up to Moreton Bay United and had a nice 3-0 win with Shepherd Pinn and Alice scoring the goals. And in other Victorian action, Western United on Wednesday were 4-0 winners up in the Newcastle in the Hunter region. Bottich, Ruse, and 2 goals for Lockie Wales. So all of those sides progressing. Some of the other teams getting through: Western Sydney Wanderers, Gold Coast Knights, Wellington Phoenix, Metro Stars, not Inglewood, Sydney United, and Mount Druitt Town Rangers. Those matches started Friday before last. So, yeah, we've nearly got there, and we've got a couple more matches to come. If you're in the Melbourne metro area, you can go to Northcote City and Adelaide United at John Cain Memorial Reserve. That's tomorrow at 7:30. And there's also a bit of a derby in Western Sydney, Campbelltown against Macarthur, and an all A-League battle at Newcastle with the Jets facing the Raw.
Yeah, the big draw happening tomorrow night after the conclusion of those games. Yeah, but let's turn our attention now to the NPL Victoria competition. We touched on it with Ben CAHN, the Melbourne Knights coach. That was a moments early, about an hour ago. Green Gully went down to Heidelberg United 2-1. Wow, because Green Gully will be missing this year's final series. That has now been confirmed, that the sides that will play in the final series are Avondale, South Melbourne, Oakleigh, Cannon, Melbourne Knights, Port Melbourne, and Altona Magic. But all the interest is surrounding now at the other end of the competition standings. Now, Heidelberg plays South Melbourne during the week. That's the last of the catch-up games. Now, South Melbourne, if they draw or lose, and Heidelberg are at the moment in very, very good form, I would not be surprised if that happens, because this is the big derby, the biggest derby of them all, the big Greek derby. Steve, South Melbourne travel to North Geelong next Saturday. Now, North Geelong needs to defeat South Melbourne. 24 hours ago, you probably would have thought, there's no chance of that happening. But if South Melbourne draw or lose to Heidelberg, that's it. Avondale's taken the title, the minor premiership. Will South Melbourne play a youth team? Will they then just, give some of their youngsters a go, hence giving North Geelong an opportunity to, on the final day of the season, escape relegation? Man.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I'm not sure, Tonchi. I think that I think that they'll be looking for revenge, against Heidelberg United, who could be a little bit tired on Wednesday night after a busy schedule, going up to Queensland, coming back, playing at Green Gully today. And that graphic that you showed of that full-time score at Green Gully there, you could see in the background the broadcast position that had tipped over there, that looked like kind of symptomatic of poor old Cavaliers and their end of their season there. We thought they were going to make that top 6, and that's tumbled over. So a little bit symbolic there, unfortunately, for the Cavaliers. But Altona Magic might be complaining because they're going to be in the top 6 now. That's signed, sealed, and delivered. But just on your earlier point, Tonchi, I think that the South Melbourne side, and I saw them firsthand yesterday, it wasn't their best performance of the season when they were beaten 2-1 by Avondale in a really high-stakes match. But you look at the depth on their bench, they had players to bring on, including Andy Brennan, Yagub Mustafa, Josh Wallen, Luka Ninkovic, and Ali Suleimani. So even if they rotate the deck against North Geelong, they're going to field a very strong side nonetheless, and it will be a tough one for North Geelong. But it's funny, though, we get to this point in the season, one round to go, and we've got a few teams that have been struggling, but not one of them is confirmed to be relegated after the second last round, which is a surprise because you sort of thought that by this time we might have had at least one team, or maybe both, would be locked away to the confines of a new lower division next season, but it's not the case.
No, and look, the fixtures, when you look at those fixtures for the last game, last round of the season, Avondale at home to Bentley Greens, a tough one there for Bentley. Oakleigh Cannons hosting Moreland City, a tough one there for Moreland City. As I mentioned, North Geelong hosting South Melbourne at Alco Park.
So top 3 against the bottom 3 in the final round.
Yeah, it's exactly right. It is exactly right. It's absolutely insane. Like you just wouldn't read about it.
No.
Heidelberg United at home to Melbourne Knights, Port Melbourne Sharks at home to Altona Magic, St Albans Saints, who recorded a narrow but very, very important win over Moreland City yesterday. I think it was 1-0, was it? Or 2? Is that right? I can't remember. It was a
St Albans 1, Moreland 0, yeah.
Moreland 0. So they now come up against Green Gully in the big Western Suburban Derby next week at Churchill Reserve. And I guess bragging rights are up, but St Albans are safe. And Dandenong Thunder at home to Hume City. So all games kick off at 3 p.m. All games on the Saturday. What a not so much for the well, it still might be a chance. Look, South Melbourne, if they end up defeating Heidelberg midweek, they still stand a very, very slim chance of taking out the minor premiership, although highly unlikely. But mate. Let's move along to NPL2, and then we'll look at NPL3 very, very quickly, and then it's time for our second guest. But let's turn our attention to NPL2, the competition of chaos. Steve.
It is indeed. Plenty of goals again, although there wasn't any on Friday night at Werribee City 0, Langwarren 0. There was a resounding win for Manningham United Blues, who... they impressed me last time I saw them, and they've come home with a wet sail. 5-0 winners over Kingston City. Everson scoring the hat-trick in that one. So they're moving up into third. So they're in promotion contention. Moreland Zebras also banging in the goals. Five goals, or should I say Brunswick Juventus, despite being in the bottom 2. A 5-2 win over Melbourne City. It was honours even between Northcote City and Western United. Now, Western United playing for promotion in this match. Laval had opened the scoring for them on 29 minutes, but they managed to concede at the worst possible time a goal to Ishida for Northcote City in the 91st minute to miss out on their chance to get promotion a week early, but they'll go again this week. And to try and get there, Brunswick City were 4-1 winners in a local northern suburbs derby against Pascoe Vale. A Lions derby in the east at Gardeners Creek. We saw Eastern Lions 2, Preston Lions 1. We've got one game to go as well tomorrow at 8:15 at the Veneto Club. It's the Bulleen Lions and Dandenong City.
Yeah, if we turn our attention now to the final round next week, once again, all games kick off at the same time, Saturday afternoon at 3 p.m. There's a lot of interest in the top 2 spots or the promotion spots. There's also going to be a lot of interest in the bottom, who's going to avoid relegation. Preston Lions at home to Brunswick City, a big game in the context of whether or not Brunswick City will survive. A win for Brunswick City, and that's it. Everything is sorted. The Brunswick Juventus, well, not really, because Werribee City will also have a game here against, guess what, Pascoe Vale. Now, Pascoe Vale, they're relegated, but they could have a big bearing on what happens here. Now, should Pascoe Vale defeat Werribee City, for example, and Brunswick City and Brunswick Juventus manage to get points and wins, well, Werribee City will get relegated. That's something not our mate Craig Filer wants to know about. But Brunswick Juventus travel to Langwarrin. Dandenong City are at home to Eastern Lions. So they've got destiny in their hand. If they beat Bulleen tomorrow, and if they beat Eastern Lions at home on Saturday, they are the champions. In fact, if they defeat Bulleen tomorrow, they secured promotion back into NPL for next season. Melbourne City hosting Kingston City. Wow. Manningham United Blues taking on Northcote City. Bulleen Lions at home to Western United. So these are going to be incredible games to say the least. But the competition of chaos is drawing to a close, and right at the very, very end, Steve, it's throwing up all sorts of unexpected outcomes, isn't it?
It is, and it would only be fitting, Tonchi, if the final day of the season with all the concurrent matches just saw the most infinite amount of chaos possible. Let's wait and see. It's going to be a lot happening next Saturday at 3 o'clock with NPL top tier and NPL2 all happening at the same time to decide their seasons.
And let's have a look at NPL3.
Yeah, so match day 21 of 22 took place, and those results from the weekend, it was a good weekend for Essendon Royals. 3-0 winners over Box Hill United on Friday night. Then yesterday saw Ballarat City 1, Caroline Springs George Cross 2, Doveton 0, North Sunshine Eagles 5. A good win for the Eagles on the road. Beau Morris also had a good afternoon yesterday. 7-1 winners over Nunawading City. It was a good home outing for Goulburn Valley Suns up at Shepparton, 1-0 against the visiting Geelong Soccer Club. And the other match that took place today, this afternoon, it was Burundara Carey Eagles 2, Melbourne Victory Reserves 1.
Well, no matter what happens in the last round of the season, everything has been sorted out in NPL3. Caroline Springs George Cross, they are the champions. They are promoted to NPL2 next season. Melbourne Victory, likewise, they are promoted to NPL2 next season. So potentially we could have Melbourne Victory, Melbourne City, and Western United in NPL2, depending on what happens with Western United. But anything is possible there. Unfortunately, at the other end, we've got 2 regional Victorian sides that have that will be relegated to State League 1. Geelong Soccer Club, they just couldn't get out of their late season difficulties and troubles. And Ballarat City, even though under newly returned coach Michael Trigger had a run of 4 consecutive wins, they weren't able to follow that up over the last 2 rounds. And unfortunately for Ballarat City, they too will experience life in State League 1 competition next year, Steve.
They will. Shall we have a look at the NPLW now, the round 21 of 22? And this match week has sort of taken place over 2 weeks because Calder and Bulleen played each other in the league last weekend. That was 0-0. And then this week we saw Friday night, Box Hill United 0, Alamein 2. Also on Friday, it was the FV emerging 2, Burundara Carey Eagles 3. So they're still looking good. The Eagles 2-2 between Southern United and South Melbourne. So South Melbourne dropping some points there. And Bayside United yesterday went down 1-0 to the Preston Lions.
Yeah, so we've got 1 round to go. There's still a catch-up game between South Melbourne and Southern United to come, which is quite it throws up some interesting possibilities there as well, depending on how much they can. If South Melbourne, you'd assume they're going to beat Southern United, but by what scoreline? Now, the goal difference could play a vital part here. And then let's have a look at the final round.
I think that match may have actually been the match that took place yesterday. According to my table, I've got them both on 19 matches.
Is that right? Yep.
Yeah.
And so they'll be on 35
that
points.
puts
South Melbourne.
South Melbourne on 30. So they drew that one. So they're on 33 points.
Oh, wow.
Boroondara Eagles on 38. Bulleen Lions on 37.
Yep.
South Melbourne on 33. Calder on 32. Alamein on 31. They played the extra game, so they have a bye in the next round. And that's your top 5. Preston in 6 on 29 points.
Well, let's have a look at then the battle for the minor premiership. Preston Lions taking on Box Hill United. Bayside United taking on Calder United. FV emerging against Heidelberg United. And then we've got Alamein have got the bye. But Bulleen Lions, they're at home to Southern United. And then get this, Boroondara Eagles taking on South Melbourne. Wow. So that's certainly going to go all the way down to the wire. But the battle for the top 4 spot, it's still alive and well. Although really Alamein, they can't do it. They can't do it. And really, to be honest, well, Preston Lions, they won't be able to beat South Melbourne or Calder United. So really, pretty much that's it. Boroondara Kerry Eagles, FC Bulleen Lions, Calder United, and South Melbourne make up the top 4.
It's just a matter of what order they finish in now for
Exactly
that finals, the final series. Looking forward to the NPL Women's Final Series. A couple of elimination finals happening on the weekend of the 25th, the preliminary on the weekend of the 1st, and then the final the week after that.
The newsman, Brenton Ray, comes good, as he does all the time. And he's just popped up on the comment section and said the NPLW last round has been moved to Friday night due to the FIFA Women's World Cup final next Sunday. Yes, indeed. And that is something that we're going to have to also think about what we are going to do come next Sunday as well. We may well have a show earlier in the afternoon as a preview to the World Cup. But stay tuned during the week and we'll find out a little bit later on about that. Johnny Lou, will the National Second Division go ahead next season? That's an interesting comment. Well, on one of our sister podcasts, the Oz Crows Soccer Show, we had Mark Ivkovic as a special guest last Tuesday. And he's got some inside information all the time, Mark. And he actually says that it would take a miracle for the National Second Division to get up off the ground. And if it does, it'll probably be in some form of a modified version, if that, because there is a lot of issues and a lot of talk about the financial requirements that the Football Australia is asking or seeking of individual clubs. But look, I'm sure we'll find that out in the next few weeks exactly what is going on.
It's a shame because this, the momentum at the moment, it would be the perfect time to kick off something like this, and then also a plan for a division, an equivalent division for women's football as well. But yeah, we don't want. I don't really want the watered down Champions League model. No. It's not really serving the purpose of what it's trying to serve.
Well, maybe the federal government will dip in a couple of, $10-20 million to finance the first year of a national second division and maybe an expanded version of the A-League. We are going to see A-League Women's. We are going to see an expanded version of the A-League Women's next year with Central Coast coming. Now, speaking of this Central Coast, Steve, apparently I read somewhere, and if you might know, that the Lionesses, the English national team, left the Central Coast Mariners something like $500,000 worth of gym equipment that they'd been using, and they've just donated it as a gift to the Central Coast Mariners. That is an unbelievable legacy item, isn't it? $500,000 worth of gym equipment.
Yeah, some of the perks of hosting the tournament, right? And the Lionesses have been having a pretty nice time of it up in Terrigal, I'm pretty sure, as well, where even if it is winter, that they're near a nice beach and there's a bit of sunshine there, and nice of them to donate the gym equipment, as long as they don't renege after we beat them in the semi-final on Wednesday night, Tonchi, of course. But also, look, plenty of teams yielding a nice harvest from the World Cup as well. Yesterday, working with Mark Ivkovic, he noticed that the Avondale players were wearing the FIFA licensed, the FIFA labelled vests when they were warming up, that it must have been left behind after Sweden had been training there. So that's a nice little touch there. They felt like they were walking a bit taller, like they were in the World Cup themselves.
Speaking of our NPL commentator colleagues, Alex Sivkarovsky, also who's regularly on in the comment section and a regular viewer. Cheerio to Alex. He says no chance that it's going ahead, and he's referring to the National Second Division. So yeah, well, like I said, stay tuned for the next few weeks. No doubt there'll be a lot more information regarding that. But folks, we're going to take a very, very quick break, and it's time to talk men's state league football, men's state league 1 Northwest football, and we'll be speaking to the newly crowned champions of State League 1, Altona City, and we'll be speaking to their coach, Michael Calandrella, after the break. And we've also got some exclusive footage of that game that was played yesterday at Hume Reserve in Geelong. Folks, don't go away. It's the Football Out West Show, episode 124.
Carpentry by NJT is based in the western suburbs and has many years of experience to assist you in sourcing any and all of your carpentry needs. Carpentry by NJT are great supporters of local soccer clubs in Melbourne's western suburbs, including ambitious State League 1 outfit Sydenham Park Soccer Club. Home Builders Corp, meanwhile, is a Melbourne-based construction company by the same owners with more than 15 years' experience. Home Builders Corp specialises in new homes and unit developments. With attention to detail, they work to the highest standard to satisfy their customers with a very quick turnaround. For further details about how either Carpentry by NJT or Home Builders Corp can help you, contact owner-manager Nick on 0410 576 018 or via email at nick@homebuilderscorp.com.au. Carpentry by NJT and Home Builders Corp are the proud major sponsors of the Football Out West Show.
And welcome back to the Football Out West Show, proudly brought to you by Carpentry by NJT and Home Builders Corp. And without any further ado, we've got him waiting in the green room. Is the coach of Altona City, Mr. Michael Calandrella, who is in, I understand, a jubilant mood tonight. How's your weekend been, mate? It's been a productive one.
Yeah, good evening, gents. Thanks for having me on. A very productive, great weekend, and a lot of happy and hungover people at the football club today, and myself included.
I believe it, mate. Yeah, we'll bring the ladder up and we'll go through the results of the State League 1 over the weekend. Whittlesea Rangers, they went down 1-3 to Westgate. Yarraville Glory also went down 1-3 to Brimbank Stallions. Banyule City and Upfield 1-1 draw there. Sydenham Park defeated FC Strathmore 4-2. And bottom side, Keilor Park defeated Whittlesea United 3-1. So if we have a look at that, this is really, really interesting, really, really exciting. That battle for survival at the other end of the competition standings. Look, any one of with 2 games to go, any one of 5 teams could still find themselves relegated. Corio, Whittlesea Rangers, Strathmore, Banyule City and Keilor Park. But if we turn our attention to the other side, up the top there, Altona City cannot be dislodged. 7 points clear of second place Sydenham Park. And look, Mick, we've got some footage of the game that was played last night. It was a tough game. It was the heavens started opening up at one stage, so it was quite wet and slippery. But mate, how did you see this game against Corio, a team that is really fighting for survival?
Yeah, it was a tough game, Tonchi. I thought the first half we were fairly comfortable. They sat back quite a lot in the first half, and we managed to get a goal and go 1-0 up. But the second half was a different story. They came out fighting. Yeah, you could see that they were fighting. They're fighting for survival, and they definitely came out a different team in the second half. And they did give us a lot of problems. They got one back, and it was 1-1. And every time they went forward, they looked dangerous. But we got a penalty probably against the run of play in the second half, and we missed that. But the boys knew we needed a point to secure the championship, and I think you could see there was we were playing with a bit of pressure, and the boys just did what they had to do to get over the line and get that point, and couldn't wait for that final whistle to go and enjoy the celebrations.
And what a tremendous season it's been so far. 20 games, 16 wins, 3 draws, and just the 1 loss over that time as well. But when you are going so well, you feel that pressure building up that you're trying to achieve an objective and you need to keep things going forward. How has that pressure told on both yourself and the playing group over the recent weeks?
Yeah, for sure, Steve. I think that pressure increased in the last 2 or 3 weeks. We knew, what we had to do. We didn't mention it at training, and we wouldn't speak about it a lot, to be honest. But the boys knew where they sat and what had to be done to achieve the goal. And there's been probably the last 2 games, Corio and Upfield. I could see that we were tense. We played a little differently. We played with heavy shoulders, so it definitely increased. But at the same time, I think we hit the top of the table at about round 6 or round 7. And, the boys have had to deal with that every week, being on top, and everyone's coming to knock you off. So, they were accustomed to that pressure, and it did increase the last 2 weeks, but they dealt with it well, and, they're well-deserved champions.
Yeah, Mick, if we have a look at the ladder again of the NPL3 Victoria competition, I guess this is the association. This is the team that teams you will be taking on next year, minus those teams in the red. Obviously, being relegated. But look, Caroline Springs, another proud Maltese club. They were in State 1 last year. They got promoted first year, so they won't be there. They'll be obviously up in NPL 2. But North Sunshine Eagles, Goulburn Valley Suns, Nunawading City, Burundara, Doveton, Box Hill, Beau Morrison, Essendon Roars. Some big clubs, some tough clubs there. What are you expecting of the off season? A lot of planning, a lot of work, but obviously on and off the field. But when do you start thinking about next season? Have you started thinking about it now, or what's going to happen over the next few months as far as that is concerned?
Yeah, look, I think we start planning from now. We've still got 2 games to play, obviously, but the planning's going to start immediately. I'll sit down with the club during the week and discuss next season. We know we're stepping up. It's a tough league. If you look at the teams that are going to be in that league, plus the teams coming down from NPL2 as well, Pascoval and could be Brunswick Juve or even Werribee, they're big teams. So we know it's going to be a tough league, and we have to step up as a football club, as a team, because we know we're in for a challenge. But if we prepare right, and we want to consolidate. I think the plan is, Tonch, that we don't want to be going to NPL3 and be in a fight to come back down to State 1, because we definitely don't want to come back to this league. That's for sure. So we'll consolidate. We want to be competitive in the league, and we have to do everything in our power to achieve that, and that planning starts now.
And Mick, there's a string or a succession of comments in the chat here from Altona City people that are very proud at the moment. There must be some good people behind the scenes at the club, and what are the sort of things that maybe Altona City is doing well that maybe have played a big role in your year, and that other clubs will be looking to replicate, perhaps? Yeah,
look, it's a beautiful club. Beautiful people, brilliant club. It's it's a little humble club, and we had to do things a bit differently in this league. We know there's a lot of money in State 1, so we had to do things in a different way, and that goes as far as the committee working so hard to get all the little 1%ers right, and we were, to be honest, as our coaching staff, we were pretty relentless with what we needed and what we wanted, what we needed to achieve success. And the committee and they were fantastic. They really did everything they could in their power to help us on the journey. And we've got great supporters, great sponsors, and everyone's in it together. It wasn't only that the boys were in it together. The team was incredible, but everyone behind the scenes, the committee, supporters, sponsors, they just worked quietly in the background, and they did make my job easier. And I think to have success in this league, if you've got that behind you, especially if you probably can't compete financially with some of these other teams, you really need that. And we proved that there's another way of doing it.
Now, Mick, the last time we had you on the show, it just seems like it was yesterday, but it's a couple of months or whatever it was. We spoke about off the field how the club rooms and the pitch are undergoing a major reconstruction over the coming months. And so there's obviously a lot of excitement with regards to that. Now it's set in stone. You're promoted to NPL3. So there must be a lot of euphoria at the moment. And you said there's a lot of partying happening at the club last night. Is that starting to translate into more tangible thing? Are there sponsors starting to come out of the woodwork? Are there people that have been coming back to the club that haven't been involved for a long time? How can the club capitalise on this bit of excitement that's being generated on and off the field?
Yeah, spot on, Tosh. Look, there's a massive buzz at the club at the moment, and we saw supporters come back to the club this year. I think they saw that things had changed a little at Altona City, especially on the field and off. And, we're supporters that have returned, and they were at every game. And as far as our sponsors go, we've got some very, very good people that are willing to help this football club, and with some great connections, and they're always willing to do what they need to do to make sure the club's moving forward. So, with the new ground, the new facility, being promoted to NPL, I think it's just going to grow, and the word's out there about Altona City, and we're in a good spot at the moment.
And Mick, a couple of questions more from me as well. I can't remember the time frame for that upgrade at Kim Reserve. What that would, when that will be ready for you for next season or mid next season, and also I had to ask as well, how did that demolition party go?
Yeah, well, I've just recovered from that one, and we had a party last night as well. So it's never ending at Altona. But the facility's already been knocked down. They've dug up the surface, so I think the surface will be ready or close to ready for the start of the season. The facility won't be. I think that'll be probably mid next year. So I think we may be working out of portables for the meantime, but I think the surface is on track for us to be ready to play at the start of the season, or whether we have to play a few games away in the beginning. But from what I've been told and what I've heard is that the ground will be ready, but the facility will take a few months more.
Yeah, excellent. Now, if we have a look, turn our attention to the penultimate round this coming weekend. On Friday night, 3 games. Whittlesea Rangers hosting Banyule City, Yarraville hosting Westgate, Upfield at home to Sydenham Park. And then on Saturday, we've got Keilor Park hosting Corio. So it's the bottom side versus Corio. FC Strathmore against Whittlesea United. And then Brimbank Stallions at home to Altona City. The last 2 games, Mick, away from home, but it kind of doesn't really matter. But you'll be taking the party on the road now. Looking forward to that game against Brimbank Stallions.
Yeah, for sure. And Tonch, I'm looking for. We've got some very good young kids in our squad, and they've stuck by us without having a heap of game time. So we're looking to reward those kids over the next couple of weeks, and they've been there, they've done all the hard yards, and it's their turn to get out on the pitch and enjoy themselves without any pressure, and show us what they can do. And it's well deserved by those boys. I'm looking forward to watching them over the next couple of weeks.
Fantastic.
Excellent. Well, we wish you all the best of luck for those final 2 games, Mick, so you can finish the season on a high. And I see you've got the club presentation night coming up in mid-September, so you guys better go and recover and recuperate, because I'm sure that's going to be one hell of a party as well. We might have to get our tickets for us to get to that one, Tonchi, as well. Seems like the place to be at the moment.
For sure. Love to have you there, boys.
Good on you, Mick. Well done. All the very, very
Thanks,
best for the off-season, and certainly life in NPL3. We'll look forward to having you on next year on the Football Out West show.
Thanks so much, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Mick. Great stuff.
Mick CALANDRELLA from Altona City. What a fantastic story that is, and a real, success story of 2023. And having personally been down at the club at Kim Reserve, you've got some very, very lovely people, as there are, Steve, at every club, every community club here in Victoria, and we want to celebrate those over the coming weeks, some of those successes, whether it be promotion or surviving relegation. And I tell you what, if ever there was a fine advertisement for promotion and relegation in this country, it's what's happening now and what's happening over the coming weeks, both in the NPL competitions, the NPLW, as well as also the various state leagues.
Absolutely right, mate. I can't wait for next weekend's matches. It's going to be one hell of a Saturday, especially.
Yeah. That brings us to the end of today's epic Football Out West show, folks. It's been an absolute corker of an episode. There's been just so much going on. This Wednesday night, before that, tomorrow night, the draw for the round of 16 of the Australia Cup, followed by Wednesday night, the big semi-final clash against England. And just a quick word, our sister podcast, the Oz Crows Soccer Show, obviously will not be going to air next on Wednesday. It will go to air on Tuesday. In the meantime, we've also got the Game of Two Halves podcast tomorrow night from 8 p.m. as well. Lots happening down Geelong way as well. And yes, stay tuned for word during the week of what we are going to do with regard to the Football Out West show next week. Obviously, Sunday being a big, big day for hopefully a massive day for Australian football, and specifically Australian women's football, with the final of the Women's World Cup next Sunday.
Spot on.
Okay, folks, enjoy the week ahead. It's going to be a huge one. And good night, Steve.
Good evening, Tonchi, and good evening, viewers. Good night.
Bye-bye.